Creating a streaming routine can be a huge game changer, especially if you're going live on a regular basis. In this episode, we're going to talk about why you might want to create a streaming routine, and we'll talk about some of the elements that I think you should be including in that routine. And of course, I'll be answering your questions along the way. So let's dive in. And before we get going, I want to know what is your favorite ice cream? Let me know in the comments. That's kind of our question for the week. This week, it's been a long week of events for me. I've actually been live with a client stream Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the production side. And so it's kind of been a crazy week, and I'm looking for a treat to celebrate surviving that this week. So let me know in the comments what your favorite ice cream flavor is. I'd love to know what that is. So let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome. My name is Nick Polkowski, and this is a show in partnership with BeLive where we're going to talk all about streaming routines. This is a regular or weekly show where I dive into live video production, talk a lot about the gear, some of the techniques and strategies to help improve your live video quality. We're live every single week. And so I'm very excited to be diving in. And like I mentioned, this is a show in partnership with BeLive. So if you haven't checked them out yet, be sure to do so. You can head on over to nickpolkowski.com/BeLive and learn a little bit more about them and sign up to stream with BeLive. They help make it easy. So that's why I love working with them. And I'm seeing a few different ice cream flavors come in, which I love. So let's see. Celebrating your survival too. Thanks, Nancy. Likes Rocky Road. I love it. Pistachio ice cream. Awesome. Excellent. So very excited to see some people here. And I am excited to talk about today's topic. Rose is having a cold evening in South Australia. So it's always nice to see that we have people from kind of all over the world watching our streams. And Rose really likes chocolate ice cream. Awesome. And we got some strawberry coming in here as well. Love hearing that. And I love hearing from all of you. So thank you for commenting. Be sure to leave those comments, continue throughout, and definitely let me know if while we're diving into some of this topic, you have any questions. I will be pausing occasionally to address any questions that people have about streaming in general, but specifically about creating a streaming routine. So let's jump in and talk a little bit about why might you want to create a streaming routine? Well, what it really comes down to is no matter what level you're streaming at, it can be very complex. There can be lots of steps to going live and live streaming. So by creating that streaming routine, you're going to help create a checklist to make sure you don't miss any of those steps, to make sure you have everything kind of in order and you don't forget or mess up something simple, because that can easily happen no matter what level you're at, no matter how many times you go live streaming. Live streaming is something that I do for clients on a regular basis. Like I said, I was live every single day this week for a long time. So that means starting multiple different streams. So I'm used to going live, but it's often very easy to miss some steps, especially if things, something might change or we have to go live in a slightly different way or trying something new. It can be very easy to miss some of those simple steps. So you want to create that routine so you don't miss any of those steps. And really what it does, it's going to help kind of elevate your baseline. So it helps ensure you have a certain standard for the quality of your streams, and it helps make sure you hit that every single time consistently, which is going to be huge, because if you ever want to continue on the show, we talk a lot about continuing to improve the quality of your live streaming, of your live video. And in order to improve that quality, you have to make sure you're hitting that consistency, the current level of quality consistently. So in order to raise that, you want to make sure you're always at that same level before you add anything new, before you add extra complexity, before you add that extra before you start adding lower thirds, before you start adding other camera angles, before you start adding in B-roll or getting fancier and fancier, bringing on guests. You want to make sure that you know you can hit that certain quality and add that complexity along the way. That's why I really like creating some sort of streaming routine. Now, what makes a great streaming routine. If you are already going live, and I want to know this too, have you gone live in the last 2 weeks? Let me know in the comments. Give me a yes or no. And I want to know, have you gone live in the last 2 weeks? I would love to hear from you. And just if you have, the big thing I want to say is that start writing down what you're already doing for your streaming routine. What you're already doing. You might not necessarily call it a streaming routine, but start writing it down. I know I'm starting to see some yeses come in. Awesome. We have definitely some yeses coming in. Let's see. Let's write. Here's a few. We got live. All right. I do a daily stream. Awesome. Great to hear that. More yeses coming in. Love to hear that. And if you don't yet, don't worry about it. My big goal is just to start getting people to go live. So we want to break this down as simple as possible and get people to go live. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I really like BeLive and I'm working with them is because they help make it easy. So if you haven't gone live yet in the last 2 weeks, go check them out. It'll hopefully help you get started. But if you are currently going live, what I want you to do is sit down and really think about what are all the steps that you are currently doing in your live streams? What is something that you're checking? What are you doing? How are you setting things up? Because that's going to help be a really solid baseline for you. So in this last week, I was mentioning I was live every single day. This was for clients who we helped build. We built their studio in their office, built a live streaming studio. It's fully dedicated to recording and live streaming. And this was really the first big test of that studio. We've done some pre-recorded stuff in there in the past, but this is the first time we were live, and it was obviously a big, long event. So there were lots of things that we were learning along the way, lots of little tweaks. Okay, if we want to be live in 2 Zoom rooms at once, this is how we have to set things up. So I was, during any sort of break that we have, writing things down like crazy. These are the steps we take. This was the level we were setting microphones. This was the microphone we were using. This was the camera we were using. We were bringing NDI in this way and that way. We were connecting computers in this way. So it was just going through and writing down every single step. Your streaming routine's probably not going to be that complicated, at least initially, but going through and writing down those steps help you learn where you're currently at. But let's talk a little bit about some of the things that I think you should be including. We're going to talk about 9 major areas you should at least be thinking about with your live streaming routine. So let's dive in and start talking about those, because I think this is where it's going to help, whether you've been streaming before or not. This is where it's going to help you think about and what to really think about and prep for ahead of time. Very first area is really thinking about building the stream. This is kind of this is what makes a lot of live streaming unique from, say, recorded video, is that in recorded video, you oftentimes hear people talk about, oh, we can fix that in post. That's a kind of a common phrase, or they talk about editing things and adjusting things after the fact, after it's already been recorded. That's where, finding the story in post or editing that in post. You can't do that with live streaming, or at least you can't do that immediately with live streaming. Obviously, you can edit the recording after the fact, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you need to be prepared ahead of time for any element you might want to bring in. So that would mean creating a show flow, figuring out how do you want creating that outline, creating that script, creating that general show flow of how you want your live stream to progress. That should all be done ahead of time, and that's really going to be a huge part of this kind of building the stream ahead of time. Another element is going to be creating any sort of lower thirds. If you want to be able to bring something across, like building the stream, you need to think about that ahead of time, have that built in to your streaming service, to your streaming software, and make sure that is ready to go before you ever hit that streaming button, before you ever hit that go live button. You're also going to want to create any sort of show flow, pre-show graphics. So if you are going to go ahead and bring in some sort of countdown timer, you're going to need to make sure that you have that built in and ready to go ahead of time. If you're going to add any extra little graphics at the beginning, that needs to be built ahead of time. If you have any sort of graphics that you want to do, you need to be thinking about those ahead of time, making sure they're built in, they're planned, I like to also plan just lots of other things that you need to have set and ready to go. You also need to think about scheduling your stream if that's something you want to do. So that means creating the description. That means creating the title. That means creating the thumbnail or the show card, so that that's all ready ahead of time before you even start going live. So that's one of the major first steps that you need to be thinking about. The next one, we're going to get a little more practical here, or a little more what a lot of people think about when they think about live streaming. And we're going to talk about actually thinking about your video. Is your camera charged? If you're using, like, say, a DSLR or your phone, you want to make sure that camera's charged. You want to make sure that camera's connected. Definitely had that. We've had some people have that issue in the past where we're getting ready to go live, and we get to this final checkpoint right before we hit that go live button and realize, oh, the camera is not connected properly, or there's a loose cable, or the cable's not working. So making sure that your camera is connected and ready, and also making sure it's framed correctly. We talked a little bit about this in a previous episode, but you want to make sure that your camera is at about eye level, or as close as it can be, that your camera is stable so it's not constantly jerking, and you want to have kind of that nice frame, nice lighting that's also going to go with kind of this step. But you want to make sure that visual element, that main visual element of you, is as spot on as possible in this step in your show flow. So if you have any questions so far, I know I'm kind of running through some of these fast. We have 9 areas I want to cover. Some of them will go a little more in depth in, but let me know in the comments if you have any questions along the way. I'm definitely checking comments, and I'm still looking to see how often people are streaming, what their favorite ice cream is. So I love seeing those comments. Definitely continue to leave those down below. Now, once we think about the video, what I really like to focus on is the audio. Audio is often something that gets overlooked. It's often something that people think about kind of after the fact, but audio is a huge part. Honestly, I think probably more important than your video. Audio is going to make a huge difference in your stream. So you want to make sure, and it can often be the one that messes people up the most because there's so many. It has to be tweaked just kind of the right way sometimes in order to help you really sound good and come through in a nice, high quality, just audio fashion for people to listen and really appreciate your audio settings. So it's making sure that you eliminate as much echo in your room as possible. But really, it comes down to making sure you have a good mic. Your mic is connected, and you're connected to the right microphone, especially if you're using extra microphones or external microphones. Sometimes you need to go back through and just making sure that your computer is gathering the correct microphone. I know that will often happen when I connect to different streaming softwares. You can jump in to say something like BeLive. It might initially connect to the wrong microphone. That just happens. So, and I completely agree with Rose that audio is very important, very important. So you want to make sure that you have that set and ready to go. If you're using something like me, where I like to use wireless lav, you need to make sure that batteries are good, that your batteries are charged, they're ready to go. You also want to make sure that you test your audio levels, so people can hear you correctly, that you're not peaking because you're too loud, or that you're way too quiet that people can't hear you. So you need to make sure you get those audio adjustments done properly. Oftentimes, especially if it's just you, and you maybe don't have a really great way to monitor, that might mean, say, if you're on your computer, opening up another software, something like on a Mac, you can open up QuickTime, something super simple, and just do a quick little recording of you testing your microphone to make sure that it sounds good, so that the audio is not too low, so that it's not peaking and getting distorted, but just really checking your audio levels there. And then another great thing to do, especially if you're doing a longer production or might have multiple different elements, you might want to create a mute hotkey. You can do that several different ways. You could do that through something like a Stream Deck, a Stream Deck, or you could do that through a computer here. You could also, for me, again, I have a mute button directly on my lavalier, so I can just hit that mute button, and then you can't hear anything that I'm saying right now because it is muted. So you can't, having that quick mute button, being able to quickly mute if you have to cough or anything like that, or there might be some other noises. It's always that's kind of a nice to have. It's not necessarily required, but it is kind of a really nice thing. Let's check in. I got a couple comments in here. Oh, I hate when that happens. So had an awful audio on my last live. I hate it. It's painful because people can't hear you. They will definitely leave if the audio is really bad. If they can't hear. So yeah, it truly is really important to make sure that you have as high quality audio as you possibly can. And it's honestly is one of those frustrating pieces for me. I would love. I appreciate video more, but audio has been something that I've realized really need to focus on, really need to learn more about personally in order to make sure those shows come through really well. So if anything, learn more about audio, learn as much as you can about it. It's the thing worth investing in, honestly, versus upgrading your video quality. I'd really recommend investing in audio. Yeah, and making sure that there is no echo is going to be an important thing as well. And a lot of that can be in the room that you're having. It can be sometimes you might have an extra microphone, especially if there's multiple people in the room. If you have that's one thing that I can run into in an event sometimes is that people could be doing an interview and we have two different microphones on each person, but the one microphone might be turned up a little too loud. So it's actually grabbing the audio from the other person. And so then you get a little bit of an echo in there and that can be a pain. So it's making sure to really dial in some of those audio elements and really thinking about audio. That's why that is the third on the list, is because I do think it's extremely important. And these aren't necessarily in order that you have to do. You can adjust it depending on what works best for you. And that's really what I want to recommend with this whole streaming routine is create the one that's going to work for you, because depending on your setup, there are going to be lots of different things that you're going to need to think about. You're setting up to go live in Zoom might be completely different than doing an interview over Facebook. From computer to computer might be completely different. So really sit down and think about the steps that you need to take for your own personal routine. These are just some of the major elements, kind of the high points that I think you need to be considering. And Jason is asking a question here. While we're still on audio, let's dive into this question. He's asking how important, and it's getting cut off here the way it looks. Well, his question is how important are headphones? So how important are headphones? And honestly, Jason, headphones can be extremely important. So a couple different levels. If the microphone in your computer built into, say, like your laptop is generally not very good. So a lot of times I will recommend people, say, if you're on a Mac and or on an iPhone, actually on any computer, and you happen to have your Apple headphone, your Apple like AirPods with a little microphone, or any sort of headphones with a little microphone on it, getting that microphone closer to you is going to improve the audio quality. So oftentimes I will recommend people wear headphones purely for that fact, because the microphone is going to be closer to them. It'll be a little higher quality than like the built into a laptop microphone. But going beyond that, where you're really going to need headphones and want headphones, like you're going to notice right now, I don't have any in, and I do have some that will hide. You don't notice on camera because I don't like necessarily wearing, the big headphones on camera. That's not always the look that I'm going for. So I've found a few different ones, and I have a video that on my YouTube channel that you can check out that dives into different headphones. So you can head over to the YouTube channel, check that out if you want to learn more about headphones in general, my favorite headphones for live streaming. I'm actually reviewing a brand new pair that I'm super excited about. Pretty expensive, but very excited about to kind of eliminate that. But where they come in and are important is when you're doing an interview. You have a guest. So if it's just you, honestly, you don't need to really wear headphones unless, of course, you're going to be playing a lot of sound or audio from your computer. Because what the issue is that there could be a delay, and that could interfere with your audio quality, or that could add some echo. If there is any sort of even minute delay where your microphone might pick up the audio coming from your speaker, that's where it's going to be the biggest issue. Software like Zoom and Teams have done a pretty good job at canceling that echo. However, I still really encourage you, if you're ever going to do an interview, go ahead and grab a set of headphones. Make sure both of you are grabbing headphones, because that's going to help improve that audio quality and help eliminate any sort of audio issues. Now, Kind of tangentially related to that, I want to jump into our next key point. Next key point you need to do on your routine is really think about your connection, your internet connection. And the reason I say it kind of related, because if either one of you have a little bit of internet lag, that's where some of that echo can kind of creep in as well. But go ahead and test your internet speed. You want to make sure that you're streaming at a high enough quality, or that you have high enough quality internet that you can go live, especially if you're going to be bringing on guests and stuff. You need a little bit more room in your internet bandwidth. And honestly, the higher the upload speed, the better. So I always want to try and have as high of quality, as high upload speed as possible. In terms of kind of minimum, I like to see minimum 5 in terms of your upload speeds. If you're below that, it can be very dicey. You can still technically probably do it, especially on something like, Facebook, where or some of those other services where they will add in that extra little buffer for you. You'll probably be okay. You could be okay, but really test your internet speed. Try to find at least 5. 10 is kind of the real minimum, honestly. But the higher quality that you can get, the better. And honestly, this is where I love a service like BeLive, because it allows you to go to multiple different locations. Because normally what would happen is, say I'm using another software like vMix or something like that, or even Ecamm, where you can send to multiple different streaming locations with a service like vMix. vMix is a software for PCs that allows you to stream. It's kind of a higher end, more professional grade software. It will allow you to send out to multiple different streaming locations. However, you have to send that individually to each streaming location. So you're using up a certain amount of bandwidth to this one, a certain amount of bandwidth to this one, and a certain amount of bandwidth to this one. But what BeLive allows you to do, not only does it make streaming a lot simpler, but it allows you to send only one stream out, and then BeLive takes care of sending out to multiple different locations. Like right now, we're live on the BeLive page, we're live on my Facebook page, we're live in the BeLive community, and we're also live on BeLive's YouTube channel. 4 different locations, all without using up a ton of internet bandwidth. So that's hugely important. So that's kind of that next beat, is making sure that you go ahead and check your connection. All right, and now we are on to, I'm going to jump in. I see I have a few more questions. We'll jump in and get those in just a second, but I want to talk about platforms. This is really, some of this will be decided in that kind of building the show piece, but at this point, really what I want you to think about is, one, which platforms are you going live to, and then go in and test, especially if this is something newer, or if this is a bigger event, something you need to make sure it goes correctly. You're going to want to go in and test that your stream is going live, that things are working, that everything's kind of set up. And a lot of times, depending on the software that I'm using, I will actually, and depending on the event I'm doing, you can actually go in and preview to make sure that things are live. Like if you're going directly to Facebook on a scheduled stream, you can actually go ahead and preview, make sure it's out there, make sure everything is working. With BeLive, I generally don't tend to do that. I will add in a countdown timer. Like if you jumped in here early, if you were one of the first people on right when we went live at 9 a.m. or at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central, you would have noticed that there was a countdown timer. And the reason is because we started a little bit early to make sure that things were going live, that the countdown timer is working. That's where I love using pre-show graphics, pre-show countdown timers, because it allows you to check and make sure quickly that you're live on every single location, which is a huge help. And that's kind of this platform element, is to make sure that everything is working, that you can see yourself there, and that you're going out to all of the main locations that you want to go to. All right, let's jump in and check it out, a couple of these questions. All right, and here we have, I don't think this one's, oh, it came across, perfect. I have a basic plan, the stream in 720. Do you think people prefer HD? I'm thinking I need to upgrade my plan, yet haven't really used this powerful software consistently due to some personal time constraints. Okay, so do you need to go higher than 720p? I like as high quality as possible. So I will do some streaming in 4K over on YouTube for certain clients. I always like to pull in as high quality streams as possible. The reality is that on Facebook, if you're just going live to Facebook, it is going to compress it down to 720. Now, if you use something, if you are sending a 1080 signal, I do think that is going to actually, I've noticed that it is higher quality, but Facebook is still going to compress it down. It's going to kind of downgrade it to 720, but I do think it still comes through a little bit more crisp, a little bit higher quality. So like right now we're using a 4K camera. We're getting some downgrading to, if we're all the way on Facebook, downgrading to 720p. On YouTube, it'll be a little higher quality, but other places. So I like to try to stream as high quality as possible wherever possible. Zoom, for example, will also be downgrading things if you're going live in Zoom. Like it downgrades it to 720, even if you flip on that little HD button right now, it doesn't do anything, which is unfortunate. But so do you absolutely need it? Probably not. Do I recommend it? Yes, I do. But again, this is me constantly trying to push quality in streaming. I think eventually things are going to catch up. We're going to see that shift from 720 to 1080 and then eventually to 4K. That's probably several years down the road, but we're going to see a shift where quality is going to matter a little bit more. We're going to be able to stream in higher qualities, but even right now where we currently are at, you are able to see a difference in video that is done 720 straight through versus video that is versus capturing in 4K down to 720. Hopefully that makes sense. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there. And Jason's just saying thanks. His show is an interview show, so he appreciates the answer about the audio. Good, thank you. Glad to know that was helpful. All right, we are now on. We're supposed to be half an hour show. We're already running up on time, so I'm not going to necessarily rush through these, but we're going to keep moving along on these. So we might go a little bit over time, but that's okay. We're having fun. Let's talk a little bit about element number 6, which is your engagement plan. I think because live video is meant to be kind of an engaging medium, you're supposed to be answering questions, you're supposed to be interacting with your audience. It's important to think about that ahead of time and to make sure that you have your engagement plan fully set up and ready to go. So make sure you know how you're going to handle comments. Even if you're just going to say live on your phone, how are you going to handle comments that are coming through? Make sure you have some sort of plan for that engagement element. Again, BeLive makes this super easy because as you've seen, I'm able to bring across people's comments, and we can kind of show those here across on the screen and create that engagement that way. It's always nice to be able to show those comments, and BeLive manages it from all different platforms, from YouTube, and thanks, Marty. I really appreciate that. So we're able to manage comments from Facebook, from the Facebook group, from YouTube. It all gets in for me. It all here. Let's actually show you what this looks like. I'm going to show you behind the scenes, just in case you've never seen this before. For me, it all gets added here. We'll make this slightly bigger. It all gets added to that side element right there. You can see all the comments kind of coming in right here. It all gets added on BeLive, creates all that right there in that side element. So it's just one chat that I need to worry about, that I need to look at, that I need to think about. Don't have to worry about going to multiple different locations. So that makes things a lot easier as a host. Now, there are several other different ways that you can handle comments depending on where you're going live, how you're going live, what software you're using. Be sure to check out a video I have on my YouTube channel that is all about managing comments. I like to, depending on the setup you have, I like to oftentimes have a second device. Maybe it's a phone, maybe it's an iPad, but you can manage comments that way, especially if you're only going live in one location. But again, I do like BeLive because it makes things so much easier in terms of managing comments and creating that plan around how to engage with your audience. All right, now we're going to go on to 7, which is the pre-production. So this is another area you really want to make sure, and this is honestly kind of the area we've really been building up to. But this is that last moment before you hit the go live button where you want to think about, okay, am I fully set up? is everything ready to go? This is that last quick check to make sure the lights are good, everything's set up, ready to go. And then go ahead and test, and test. And this is the point in the production process. If you're like Jason and do an interview show, this is likely where you're going to want to bring on the guest, where you're going to want to bring them in, get them behind the stage in the kind of the back show, the green room, kind of backstage, to make sure that you have the guests, they're connected properly, you can hear them properly, you're ready to bring them on, give them a quick overview of what the plan is, how you're bringing them on, all of those sorts of things. That's where I like to do that. That's when I do that in this process. And let me know if you're ever interested in like a full guest checklist and kind of some templates on doing interviews with guests and live streaming with guests either remotely or in person. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. We can definitely do a stream on that here in the future. I don't plan to dive into it now, but let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in and really want me to go into more. I know we have a few people who do interview shows, so we can definitely jump in. I think that might be an interesting topic. So I'd love to know if you're interested in that. And then finally, at number 8, we are finally ready to go live. We're ready to hit that go live button. This is where you add in that pre-show countdown. You get that up and running. At least that's what I like to do. But you then hit the go live button and you do that quick check to make sure you're live on every single platform. And then you really start following your show flow once you hit this go live button. So for me, I usually have that first paragraph or so templated out, scripted out. I don't necessarily script out everything. Like right now I'm going through kind of just, I have show notes, I have an outline, but that first paragraph is usually scripted. It's usually I usually practice ahead of time, but then once, just so that I can have that good hook right away at the beginning of the show. And then I'm following the outline, kind of moving forward from there. But I just like to have that full first paragraph scripted, ready to go. So as soon as you hit that go live button, you do your quick test during any sort of countdown if you're running that. Otherwise, you just trust that the process is working, and you jump in to your show flow and just follow the show flow from there. And of course, that show flow should include some pauses for engagement. Writing that into your outline is often a good practice for people, because what I don't want you to do is to constantly get distracted by comments and things like that, but remember to have that engagement built in during the process. And so I have a couple of people saying that they're planning to rewatch this. Great, glad to hear that. And yeah, that would be helpful. I'm sure that's in reference to the guest templates and scripts. I'm definitely interested in remote interview guest pre-production future stream. Awesome. Glad to hear that. We'll get working on kind of that process. It will be probably a few weeks. We have the next few weeks kind of outlined and ready to go here, but we'll be sure to add that in the future as well. And so you're live, you're going live, delivering amazing content, having an engaging stream, interacting with your audience, and you finally get to the end of the stream. You hit that end button, you stop the recording, and then comes the final step, which is to go through and do your post-production process, your post-production stream. So that's ending the live, and that could be any sort of wrap-up task. So that could be ending the live, making sure that it's ended across all the different platforms, depending on how you're going live. You know, you might have to do a few extra steps. That's thanking the guest for being there. If you have a guest, interacting with them a little bit. And then one other thing I like to do is to go ahead and I will go through and make sure that the video is processing everywhere, because some places, usually on streams, it needs to go through a process. YouTube, for example, generally tends to take a little while to process the stream. I will download it as soon as it's done, because I like to have kind of that hard copy, or through something like BeLive, I will go through and they have a little trimming app that is available, or you're able to trim your broadcast through BeLive, which is nice. So I'll go through, download it from there, so I have the full video, but then go through and trim the video both individually on different platforms. I'll go through and say, cut out that countdown timer in the beginning. Or if we did a little bonus section just for the live video audience, I'll cut out that end section so that the replay audience only sees the tighter version of the live stream. I like to do that, especially eliminating kind of that initial piece. If there's any dead air or a countdown timer in the beginning, I want the replay audience to be able to jump in right away to the content and get that hook right away immediately. So I'll do that. This is also the point where you can grab any video clips that you want. So once you downloaded the video, or if you're using something like BeLive, their editor, you can grab clips that can be used and repurposed to social media in different ways, different platforms. So any sort of highlights you want to talk about. So maybe for this one, for example, I might jump back and talk and grab a clip of, say, the engagement plan, or just one of the areas, and use that as a teaser in Instagram or in IGTV or something like that. I might create some sort of clip from this full live stream and send that out to the social media audience. That's just a great thing to do to really help promote the video after the fact, the live stream after the fact. Because remember, as soon as you're done, the live stream, the content you created is still good. It's still going to be great for people to learn and listen. And we have some people who are talking about rewatching this. So yeah, it's still going to be valuable. So you want to be sure to continue to promote that stream, to promote that content, even after your live video has ended. So that's some of the process, some of the things that you should be doing during this post-production element. Also, I like to follow up with any additional comments. A lot of times, depending on how crazy the stream is, what kind of questions I'm able to answer, usually I'll go through and at least acknowledge any comments that I didn't get to, answer any questions that I didn't get to. Sometimes I'll write more in-depth comments. I'll maybe grab some links from, if we talked about specific resources, grabbing links and making sure those got added in to the comment and reply to that person individually. Those are just good things to do because it helps, again, create that community, which really is what live video is all about. So we want to help make sure to create a community every single way we possibly can. And that includes responding to comments after the video is done, just to make sure that people aren't being ignored or you're not forgetting about people. That's highly, highly recommend that. And then you go through and promote on social media, send out any emails. I like to do kind of post emails as well. Usually I have just an email that goes out every single week that'll include what was live in the previous week, and then also mention the show that is scheduled for the next week. So be sure, if you want to see my email newsletter, you can head on over to nickbolgoski.com and sign up for the newsletter there. There's going to be additional resources and some discounts as well that aren't available in other locations. So you can go check that out if you're interested at all. And then we get to the point where if you don't have a dedicated space, you go ahead and tear down all your gear, get things packed up and put away for your next stream, so you can get back to kind of your normal production. And then that's really the streaming routine right there. Those are the 9 areas I think you should be considering when going live. Again, your exact steps are probably going to be different than my exact steps. And which are probably going to be different than somebody else's exact steps. So Jason's probably going to have a different flow than Rose. Like you need to think about what your routine should have. But these are areas I would highly recommend thinking about, at least at that initial piece, because it's gonna adjust depending on your situation and your setup. But these are the 9 areas I think you should be thinking about and considering adding to your streaming routine. And I just want to say again that I do really like the fact that BeLive helps make some of this a little bit easier, because, and I want to jump over here and show you just a couple other things. Sorry, again, you got kind of the infinite stream here. But one area that I really like about BeLive is that they have this right here, which is some of their templates. So you're going to notice you can have an interview template right here. And a lot of this is how you can set up your streaming routine, specifically talking about your show flow. So it's just a great way to add in a little bit of simplicity. It's a really great way to kind of create that streaming routine when it comes to your show flow. These are just some of the templates that are automatically built in here. And the one I use today, you're going to notice, is right here. So I kind of had things figured out. I knew which points I wanted to talk about. And so I built all of these live streaming elements ahead of time. And again, of course, if you have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments. And you notice I was able to build in a few of the items I knew I was going to be talking about are built in right here. Here, let's hide that so you can see this. Are built in right here. So if I wanted to bring up my newsletter, I click that button, it brings up the newsletter. So some of this stuff you're able to really do with BeLive, which is one of the reasons I really like streaming from it. So think about your process. Think about how you want to create that stream. And now I do want to spend just a few minutes. I know we're well over time, and I grabbed the wrong link there. We're well over time, but I want to let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I see a couple things here. Jason is asking, can you add your newsletter link in the comments, please? Or a short description? Yeah, Jason, if you just go to here, it should add it, I think, right here. That's one of the nice things. BeLive will usually add it. nickpolkowski.com will take you directly there to it's on there. Sign up for the newsletter. It's on that main page. And again, it's usually every week I will send out an email. Every week, every other week. It's not super regular, but there'll be extra little tips. There'll be some techniques. There'll be some gear that I recommend. I'll also generally include some discounts to different products, different services. So say BeLive, if I have a discount for that or an extra discount for that, that might be featured one week, or other services, other products and gear, because sometimes I'll have discounts to different things, like Rhino Slider, for example, might send a discount code that I'll leave in there. Awesome. Any other questions from people? Now's the time. I'm watching the comments, looking to see if we have any other questions, and it doesn't look like it. So be sure to head on over. Again, if you're interested at all in BeLive, be sure to head on over to nickpolkowski.com/BeLive. Sign up there. Highly recommend checking it out, making sure you can utilize some of what this platform offers. I do think it's a great one for people who are just getting started with live streaming. It helps make it as simple as possible. And I just want to thank you again for tuning into the show. We are live every single week. Usually it is on Thursdays at 9 Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. We were live Friday, obviously, this week, but next week we'll be live on Thursday, and we'll be talking about how to actually use multiple cameras in your stream, how to use a multi-stream camera. So we'll be talking about that next week. So thank you so much for tuning in. Love seeing everybody here in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Have a good rest of your Friday.